Watcher. I said in the last review I'd do something a little bit more recent next time, and whilst technically this is true, I can't help but feel I've kind of cheated as I'm reviewing two figures very much based on a lad that started it all. This time we're taking a look at Takara's Missing Link Convoy and Hasbro's Legacy G1 Optimus Prime. Two figures that basically attempt a similar idea but take two different routes to get there. Which is better? I'll leave that up to you guys to argue about in the comments. YouTube likes it when I make you engage. But also, I like both, so this isn't one of those one must stand, one must fall situations. I just want to look at these lads and talk about what they do, and maybe you'll come away from it knowing which one appeals to you more. So it's 2024, for the next few weeks at least, and it's the tail end of the Transformers 40th anniversary. Understandably, it was a big year for Optimus Prime. It is his birthday after all. As such, there was a lot of Optimus Primes released this year. I purchased 8 of them and I still didn't get all the ones I wanted. Now, what I have always wanted was G1 toys with very modern articulation. Been something I've pined for literal decades. I am very old. This year we got two distinct takes on the idea of what if G1, but with the ability to do a dab. I feel very happy about that. That was a hastily done dab. That'll do. It's not the best dab. I could have done a better dab. It doesn't have to be the best dab. I think the best way to start is with the one that came out first. This is Missing Link Convoy, but you can call him Optimus Prime. I'm sure I'll flip-flop between the names as I go through this. When blurry images of this first leaked online, along with some Joker's fake Megatron pics, I wasn't sure this was going to be real. Like I mentioned, I've always wanted this. The original toy, here's my childhood one here looking suitably beat up, is an all-timer, not just in Transformers. This is legit one of the greatest and most iconic toys of all time. This guy's falling apart a bit now, I don't dare transform him, so I have been contemplating grabbing a newer G1 Prime to have a nice minty one in my collection. And then Missing Link gets announced and I was in. I was hitting that pre-order button. Now I didn't go for the toy version that comes with the trailer. These Missing Link lads are not super cheap and I thought I'd be cautious with the first one. I went with the anime version. Mostly it's just some slight deco changes, less painted in detail, slightly different shades of red and blue, no trailer, but also about 40 quid cheaper. He does come with stickers though if you do want to toy deco him up a bit, which is nice. After waiting what felt like an eternity, Convoy here turned up in early March, and I was not disappointed. This felt like such a revelation. My Optimus Prime was a loose, scuffed up, janky thing that I do love dearly, but I do have to recognise that he's nowhere near his best state. Convoy here was all tight joints and chip-free paint and flawless chrome. I honestly think I spent a good few minutes just admiring the figure, turning it around, looking for what was different and what was the same, just in awe of the bang-up job they did. And when I started posing him up, oh boy, that was fun. The original Prime is no slouch for posing. We should keep that in mind. He has knees and elbows that can bend and swivel, and his shoulders can do a good turn and even go backwards. His legs even separate, which is hilariously rare on G1 toys. This guy though, this guy can bust a move. His head can turn, which technically you could do on the original toy if you took a knife to his chin. I wouldn't. But it turns freely here. His shoulders have two upward angled joints and a backwards turn. Above the elbow swivel and a nice clicky ratchets for the bend. His wrists can rotate and bend inwards, and he has hands that open and close. There's an admittedly limited waist swivel, something I wish was a little bit better. His legs are perfect with a full range forwards and backwards and side motion, and a thigh swivel. Clicky knees and feet that can go forwards and backwards and tilt to the left and right. You'll have no trouble getting a running pose out of him. But wait, I skipped one. He has a flipping ab crunch. Ugh. An ab crunch on a G1 Optimus Prime. It's terrifying to move back and forth, but it's there. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely terrifying to move back. Ugh. Apparently it's a bit looser on the Sentinel Prime that came out recently. Speaking of scary joints, the thighs were a bit of a nail biter at first. I think the chrome was increasing the friction on them and they were quite resistant to turning. What doesn't help is the way the upper leg is attached to the crotch in here. It's the one part of the design that gives me pause. You see, instead of having outward angled ratchets the original had, they opted for two thin panels you slide outward during transformation. I'm sure they're strong enough for the job, but they don't half move about a bit. My tip when loosening up the thighs is to support the joint above the thigh and just sort of work it into moving gradually. Should we look at the Legacy version now? When this lad got announced, there was some confusion in the fandom. Some folks didn't get why they'd released this when Missing Link hadn't long come out, or why you'd buy Missing Link when this exists at half the price. Well, the answer to that is Missing Link isn't really available in the West for folks. It's not a toy for the retail store shelves here. Legacy G1 Prime is. This, and I need folks to understand, is the one the kids can go buy. It's actually what I would call a perfect first Transformer for little ones. Now, obviously from a collector's point of view, this is aiming to be the original toy but modernised, and that may not have a place in your collection if you own Missing Link. But get this, they can both be in your collection because they're not exactly the same thing. Now I think this is great. I've been fiddling with this lad since he turned up. I've been playing with this toy since he turned up. Looks-wise, it's a little G1 Prime. Going for a toy look, but sporting less painted details, which sort of makes it match the anime Missing Link Convoy in the end. He's got yellow eyes, which are rad. They're apparently light pipe, but it barely works. He's shorter than the original toy, which is a surprise. There are some fairly tall deluxes out there, and you'd think he'd be more on that scale. At first I thought he was positively dinky for a deluxe, but then I remembered the 2 deluxe Bumblebees I purchased this year that are a whole head shorter. Also, if you stand next to most deluxes, you'll see he's basically the average height. I think part of my brain was telling me that he's shorter than he should be, because in my head I know exactly how big a G1 Prime is. The fact that's happening at all tells me they did a pretty good job rendering out a modern version of the original toy. The looks are pretty spot on. They've made him a little more proportional, especially in the arms, but it still feels right. The original toy does have slightly longer arms. His limbs are mostly all filled in too, which isn't a guarantee on Generations toys. There's just a little waffling inside the thighs, upper arms, feet and bum. All on the sides you wouldn't notice. The silver paint is nice, but it could have done with being a little shinier. The grey thighs and elbows might look a little off, but there's barely a nitpick. Posing wise, he's your standard Generations guy. Head rotates and does a little wobble. Shoulders move up on one joint and can do a full rotation. Elbows have a rotational joint and the standard bend. The fist can't move at all, but I think that comes down to how they transform. He's got a full waist swivel, unlike the Missing Link lad. His hip skirt can move up, which is something that probably would have allowed a better waist rotation on Missing Link. Legs are pretty standard and feature non-scary thigh swivel. Feet can only turn inwards or down. It's all pretty much the standard. No real surprise, but you can get a solid pose out of him. Like if this was the level of posing on Missing Link, then I would have said it was a bit disappointed. But this figure was £25 and Missing Link is nearly £60. I can allow it to not quite be as fully featured. I'm very fair like that. Right, let's talk about accessories. They're actually really similar. Legacy Prime comes with a nice orange axe that slots over his hand and 2 guns perfectly painted in black. I think one is more toy accurate and one is more cartoon accurate. Nice to give you a choice. Also, he has a matrix cast in clear blue, which he cannot hold at all, and you can just pop it in his chest and forget about it forever. Missing Link Convoy comes with a bigger gun that features some grey paint on it. The gun has 2 handles, which I believe is there to allow you to choose if he holds it in the crooked way the original toy did, or in the correct way later versions of the original did. He has an axe that opens up at the bottom so it can fully cover the hand. It's a nice shade, but I do prefer how the Legacy one looks. Shame you can't fit the Legacy one on Convoy here. You can sort of fit the Missing Link one on Prime though. Lastly, Convoy comes with a pretty nice matrix in a matte painted finish, which he can actually hold quite well. There's also a matrix chamber piece to go inside the cab that you can remove if you wish to fit a Diaclone man in there, which I don't have. Yet. So a solid set of accessories for both of them. No surprises, but they're all nice nonetheless. Now let's transform these guys up and be shocked at the outcome. Spoilers, they're both red trucks. Now, I know this might be a surprise, so you may want to sit down, but both of these toys, designed to look and feel like the G1 Optimus Prime, happen to also transform a lot like the G1 Optimus Prime. To transform him, you do an Optimus Prime. You fold back the head, fold away the arms, and swing the legs back. You fold them up like an Optimus Prime, except for the 10% of the transformation that's a little different. On Missing Link Convoy, the difference is that the legs need pushing together at the crotch. Their solution for the hands was extremely simple. They just fold in 90 degrees and reveal the truck's headlights. No more losing fists. Legacy Prime has a similar amount of differences. The head now folds away into a back chunk. For the hands, they've gone for a slightly more complex approach. You swing the forearms down at a joint by the elbow, rotate the hands around 180 degrees, which reveals the headlights, and extend the arms out, and that all just tabs into the body as you expect. There's no mechanism for widening the thigh gap out there. You just swing the legs back and the canisters on the side tab into the backs of the elbows. Both figures utilise a few extra tabs to hold things in place, which is nice to have. I do love that neither of them felt the need to overcomplicate what is quite frankly the blueprint for how all Optimus Primes transform. There's nothing more needed to achieve this form factor. It's only when they make Primes have more accurate on-screen looks that the complexity starts ramping up. Should I do a video on Commander Class 86 Prime? Great figure, but that lad has to go to some lengths to achieve what is essentially a red box on wheels with some legs hanging out the back. Let's get up close with these trucks. Switching to close-up cam. Unsurprisingly, Legacy Prime is a little smaller. That's fine. Does feel a tad too small next to the other deluxe cars, but I've never been too fussed by scale. The Missing Link toy looks exactly like the original, or unless you're a pedant and you like to point out the slightly smaller lights and the slight difference in the front bumper. I'm not transforming my G1 Prime to compare, so here's G1 Ultra Magnus filling in. You can see there's a few differences, but it's barely a big deal. Legacy Prime also looks nice, although it'd be hard to match up to the chrome brilliance of Missing Link. That'd be an unfair battle. Chrome is so nice, but also so bad for the environment, as is the polystyrene Missing Link Prime was packed in. The only thing I'd say is a bit of a blemish on Legacy Prime is the silver line is broken up in multiple spots on the side. Part of the stripe ends up on his arms, which would have been avoided if they had kept to the proportions of the actual G1 Prime. It's not a big deal, but it's there. What was a surprise was that Legacy Prime has rubber tyres. Do like rubber tyres. Makes the rolling nicer. Front wheels are pinned, but the back ones are not. Doesn't affect how well he rolls though. Naturally, all the wheels are pinned and rubber on Convoy here. One detail for the nerds is that the trailer hitch peg on Missing Link Prime is filled in. At some point the reissue started making that a hollow peg. The latest G1 issues have gone back to this filled in post. I just thought it was a nice detail that shows they were aiming to recreate the original mould as best they could. Well, what's the final verdict? Predictably, I really like both of them. But what's the right one for you? Missing Link Convoy is undoubtedly more premium feeling. The finish and details and overall construction are a step above the average Generations figure. But for 60 quid you'd expect that. This is a figure made for collectors like me that have obsessed over these toys for decades. It's very much a collector focused piece and is generally one of the best figures I've ever owned. I recently got Missing Link Bumble and Cliff and they've hit the same spot this did, and I think I'm all in on Missing Link now. This is a figure aimed at me, but also it's technically a Japan exclusive. You're not going to find these in Smiths unless Hasbro work out a deal with Takara. Unlikely to happen until there's more figures in the line, I think. I do think there's a good chance they'll turn up on Western shores eventually though. As for Legacy Prime, I'm not going to be pretentious. This is great also. It fulfills the idea of a modernised G1 Optimus Prime very well. Whilst not as polished and swish as Missing Link toy, it is also, as stated, a lot cheaper. It's currently easily available and you know Hasbro will be repainting and reissuing this for a long time. I did notice the Earthrise trailer fits on it perfectly, so I would not be surprised if a repack with that trailer happens before long. True, it's a little smaller than you might expect, especially if you're familiar with G1 Prime, but I think if they'd bumped this up to Voyager size, people would have complained it was too simple and not worth the extra 10 quid. Deluxe Class was perfect for this, and as I said earlier, this generally makes for a superb entry-level figure for new fans. Consider grabbing one for the kids or that friend that keeps picking up your figures and getting scared to transform them. This lad is as simple as it gets and it's a timeless design. So yeah, I didn't pit these head to head and end up telling you which one was amazing and that the other one was a waste. That's not my style. Both of these are great. They both have their place in my collection and maybe at least one of them has a place in yours. All that's left for me is to thank you for watching and to ask for a like and subscribe to appease the YouTube algorithm and let you know that you can follow me at WildWheelsHat on Blue Sky. I'll catch you in the Best of 2024 vid in a few weeks. Ta!